Okay, awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you for being here, Jenny. This is going to be really informal. I didn't quite anticipate a large crowd because I don't know how many people are interested in zero textbook costs, but that's one of the things that I'm really passionate about as far as discussing OER and zero textbook costs for students. And so what we're going to do today is really go through what started this and the process that I had for developing really a bot to kind of help me determine which courses offer zero-degree pathways because that's something that's lacking. We don't have any information at our college. So we had an open educational resources kickoff. It was supposed to be a student advocacy kickoff that we held a couple of years ago now, right before spring break. It was the Friday before spring break up at our Rampart campus, which was really a bad time and we knew it, but that was really the only time that Cynthia and Rachel and I were available to do this. So Rachel Meisner, who used to be the course materials database um, individual at the community college system, we worked together quite frequently. And she really is passionate about OER. I'm passionate about OER. She said, "Hey, I'd like to do get a student advocacy thing kicked off." And I'm like, "Great, I'm on board with that." The problem is I am very introverted, and so I don't particularly like to go to talk to students, but I was willing to go in and do this because I feel like it's important. So we had our kickoff and it didn't go well. We only had a few students that were there, but the couple of days before, because I knew that it was not going to be very popular, I at our Centennial campus where I'm housed primarily, which is down we're in Colorado Springs. I'm from Pikes Peak State College. I probably should have introduced myself. My name's Christine Gaccetta-Sharp. I'm the OER coordinator and instructional designer at the college. Um, so Centennial is a pretty busy campus. And I knew that it would be busier. I'd be able to catch more students. So I went ahead and had I brought out a whiteboard and asked students how much they were spending on textbooks and if they were familiar with OER. And I found out that students really don't know the difference between OER and inclusive access. And really, by the time I did that in the semester, they had forgotten how much they paid, or they didn't want to discuss how much they paid for their textbooks. But we do know through several studies, and this particular slide here I believe was from Virtual Florida campus that discusses or surveys students about textbook costs. And data across different surveys indicate pretty much the same thing. We know that students will take fewer classes, they won't take specific courses, they don't do as well in courses if they don't have their materials, and all of that affects their GPA, which can affect their financial aid standing and of course affects time to graduation, which is not beneficial for the student at all. On average, students spend roughly, you can see here through this particular graphic, we're looking at upwards of $100 to $300 per textbook per course for a semester. So it can be pretty expensive and think I might have this slide in here twice. Oh, no. Um, Interestingly enough, community college students spend more money on textbooks than four-year university students. So, which the irony in that, of course, is that generally community college students have a greater need. At Pikes Peak State College, almost 50% of our students have some type of financial aid that they are eligible for and they use. So we do have a large majority of our student population who can benefit from having zero textbook costs. So during my little impromptu survey, what I realized what students were, they were unaware of the difference between inclusive access and OER, which is important. Um, because inclusive access, if you're not familiar with it, is a basically a type of, I don't want to say payment plan, but the books are rolled into their financial aid package, or they're paid through their cost to the college through their enrollment, and whatnot. So which is a big deal when you have 50% of students who are relying on financial aid, because obviously they can use those funds that they're getting through financial aid for things other than textbooks, like, gas and rent and all of those, food, all of those important things that are more pressing. I don't want to say necessarily more pressing, but we know with the economy, especially these days, it's going to be important. So our students here, according to our 2024 student data book, I don't think the 2025 has been completed yet. They spend an average of $1,460 per year on textbooks. So we know that there's a need. We know it's important. So what I'm going to cover today are the 3 or 4 lessons that I learned by going through this process of understanding that students don't understand what OER is. They don't know the difference between that and inclusive access. They didn't at least have a way to identify OER at the point of registration, which is extremely important, because you don't know, if you don't know what OER is and you don't know how to find it, you're not going to benefit from it. And then I found out as I progressed through some of these that we have allies in unexpected places, and I'll talk about some of those. And then also, don't be afraid to use technology to do the heavy lifting. So we use Boodlebox. We have a Boodlebox subscription on our campus, and I will discuss the process that I used for developing the bot that I'm working with currently to help identify ZTC pathways for students. Now, mind you, I am not the best bot builder in the world. So it's not necessarily a seamless process, but I'll let you know some of the things that I learned there. So the first thing I learned and realized was that the students didn't know the difference between the inclusive access and OER. And so my first thought was, well, how do we get that information to students? How are we going to let them know, and how can we relay that? So in some of my research, I'd ran across it actually was um a core a school. It wasn't here in Colorado, although we do have one of the universities, the four-year universities here in Colorado, can't remember which one it is right now, does have an affordability type of page similar to the one that we've developed. But I contacted our marketing department, and through the recommendation of my associate dean, and they built an affordable materials page for us. And one of the things that is on this affordable materials page is the difference between open educational resources and inclusive access. So students could see the difference between the two and start to get an understanding of how they are different, how they might be similar, but how they might be different. Because I believe obviously knowledge is power, right? So if they have the knowledge of what the difference between the two, they can gravitate towards one. Inclusive access is now, for those of you who aren't aware, if you're not in Colorado or aren't familiar with the community college system, we're part of a consortium. So the Colorado Community College System manages the 13 community colleges within the state of Colorado. So we do have this primary, we call it a system office, and then the individual colleges. One of the things that has been done to help our rural colleges in several different ways is we have what are referred to as pooled courses. So students throughout the state of Colorado can enroll in Colorado online pooled courses, and they can actually they don't have to be necessarily housed in the county that they live in to be able to take these classes. And one of the things that happens with the Colorado pooled classes, a lot of them do use inclusive access. So each college who's teaching a pooled course, they have to use the materials from that whatever has been decided by the state discipline chair. and those are then used by the college who's teaching the course. They use primarily the two. They are very good about using OER, and then they also use a lot of inclusive access. So two primary things there. So when students are registering for these classes, they can then determine which options. This is it wouldn't fit onto one screen. So this is our affordable materials page. And this is what they came up with, and I'm pretty happy with it. The one thing that I do like about this particular page is this is linked to multiple sites across the portal. Pretty much at any point, students are going to be dealing with registration, or they're going to be working with purchasing books. So that we do have this affordable course materials page. If they go to it, you would be able to access it from the bookstore. You access it from the registration page. I think it's linked to 9 or 10 different pages throughout our portal. So it's available in a lot of different areas for students to be able to get the information. We worked with marketing for a little bit to design this, gave them some ideas. Zach, who worked on this, I think did a fantastic job. I'm very happy with it. We did have equitable access listed first, um, as well, because that is an option, or at least was an option at one point through, I think, one of the colleges. It's no longer, and some of our leadership didn't like the fact that it was listed on our page because it wasn't an option for us here at Pikes Peak, so it was removed. But nonetheless, that was our page that was developed. So my goal with reaching out and developing that was that students would be able to now have information that will arm them with knowledge when they go to register for their courses. The second thing was that they didn't have a way to identify OER at the point of registration. And so one of the ways that we offset that, now thankfully through the state of Colorado, there was an initiative that requires course marking. One of the challenges that we experience with course marking is because it's managed by the system office, we do not have the ability to mark it any way that we want to mark it at our college. We have a few options that are available. So we do have it marked as zero textbook cost through the bookstore, who I communicated with the bookstore manager as well. They now have it listed as OER. It would be nice if it were standardized. That's not the case right now. We're working towards that, but at least students get an idea that, oh, well, this is what I can look for. This is the zero textbook cost. Or I can look for OER, and I know that those materials are not going to cost me anything. So this particular screenshot is one if you go through one of the older ways to access in the portal, which is still available. But then also on the Navigate site, so where most of our students will register for courses through Navigate. Again, just a different look, but it still will indicate the no textbook cost. And this, how to identify, this is actually taken from our course materials page. So this information, although it looks a little bit different from this screen here, it's still listed there for students to be able to identify what their no textbook cost options are. And they can see that. Um, the third lesson was that we have allies in unexpected places. So we anticipate that we'll have some faculty that will be our allies, especially those that are our OER advocates. College leadership hopefully is going to be. We will have colleagues that we work with either through our offices, or like the broader online community generally is very open to open educational resources and open source materials. So we'll find colleagues there, but some of them that I didn't think, well, I didn't think marketing. I thought that I was going to approach marketing and they would be like, no way, this is not anything that we're even interested in doing. I was very surprised that there was no pushback, that they were very open to creating that page. And yeah, completely shocked about that one. The advising department. So when I was up at the Rampart campus doing our um, student advocacy meeting on that one day, one of the advisors from the advising department walked by and asked me to give him an elevator pitch, which I was not at all prepared for. But he said, "Hey, that's really great. Why don't you go ahead and contact the individual that does the scheduling for the advising group, and you could come speak with us and give us a presentation and let us know." And so I did that. I made an appointment, contacted the individual. We set up a time to meet on a Friday morning when advising all meets together, and went through over a brief overview of OER, a brief overview of how to identify OER at the point of registration. And I just asked them very simply, my one ask that I have of you here is that when you're advising students, if it's appropriate for their schedule, try to direct them to OER and zero textbook cost materials so they can benefit from that. Our bookstore also, we have a fairly new manager, and she's been very great. She's great to work with. She advocates for OER, even though they're through Barnes and Noble. She has implemented on her end when they submit book adoptions, when whether it's the chairs or the department, whoever handles that structure. There's an option for OER, and she's standardizing OER because I just sent her an email and I said, "Hey, is there any way that we can standardize this? Because some say no course material, some say OER. It's very confusing for students." So as of fall of last year, that is something that's gone into effect. Scheduling as well, or we call them here our FLAC team. They handle scheduling. They've been very good about obviously adding the ZTC designation for course marking. They added some information to the spreadsheets that need to be completed when scheduling is done to make that more apparent, because there wasn't being reported before, so it's been a little bumpy getting everybody on board with reporting OER. So that's great. And then I've reached out to several of the administrative assistants, or they have some can't remember what their official titles are, but kind of like a co hmm, kind of like an admin, not quite. They work with faculty and whatnot as a kind of a go-between to help with some of the scheduling questions and book tracking and things like that. And so, I've worked with multiple individuals in our divisions on campus to ensure that, they're marking their OER textbooks so we can get very consistent OER information. It's certainly not perfect at this point, but we're moving in the right direction. And then, of course, students. The students, it's ironic that we started off with a student advocacy, because I feel like at this point I haven't done a lot with student advocacy as far as reaching out to students, but I also felt like it was very important to get a lot of things into place so that this information would be readily available. So when we do approach with student advocacy and try the outreach with getting more students involved, we have things that they can direct to and resources for them to use so that we can make it a good experience for them. And then the last part here was not being afraid to use technology. So we offer, these are the degrees that we offer: 31 AA degrees, 1 AGS, 12 AS degrees, 44 AAS degrees, 151 certificates, 6 associates of engineering science, 5 bachelor degrees, and 1 BN to BSN Bachelor of Science Nursing. And so when I started this project of trying to identify which pathways were going to lead to OER, zero textbook costs for our students, I had started designing spreadsheets, and I had one of our work study students go through the catalog and figure out which courses were needed. We broke them up into in-person home sections and pulled courses, and then had to manually go through and look at everything. And I will tell you that that took forever to do. And I didn't get them all done. I started with the courses that I thought were closest to OER pathways to try to determine, but it was a lot with the number of degrees and certificates that we offer. It was really too much to try to do just manually. Um, what I was able to determine, though, based on the manual research for this, is that these are our pathways that are currently AA degree pathways. We have Associate of Science degree pathway, and then these certificates are the options for ZTC certificates. So we do have quite a few. I think there were 17, 11, somewhere in there. I didn't count them. Options for students to be able to obtain a degree or certificate without. And my guess is there are more. I just have not had the opportunity to create those. And so we enter Boodlebox. We had the ability through Boodlebox to create our own bot. And so that's what I did. Now, again, I am not a Boodlebox or a bot developing guru. There are definitely people who have more experience and are better prepared to do this than I am. And it's not something that I do all the time. I have multiple things that I work with here and wear multiple hats. And so this is just something that as it comes up and I have time to work on it, I do. I would really like to spend more time concentrating on it, but right now that's not an option for me. But let me go ahead and go over to, so the bot that I created, if you're not familiar with Boodlebox at all, and I imagine that for any other type of program that you can use, you would be able to create a bot. The process would be fairly similar. There are a few things that I do like about using Boodlebox. Um, One of them is that you have this builder assistant. So it is very nice to have that builder assistant to kind of help you along the way. This is the bot builder. We went in here, tried to come up with a zippy name, so he's zero cost hero. And then we add instructions in here, and he is only allowed to pull from the knowledge database. And so these are all materials that I've uploaded in here. Primarily, these materials are the information from the book adoption portal that indicates which are OER materials, and then also through our course schedule, which are using OER materials. I've also uploaded the degree pathways. So I have the AA degree pathway. I have the AAS pathway, I think, and a couple of other things in here. So this is my testing screen. You can go if I scroll through here. There's just a lot of testing that I've gone through to see what I want it to do, what it's going to look like. So my thought and process at this point is I will be able to dial in what I want it to do, be able to dial in what I want the output to look like, and then I will be able to go ahead and make the process pretty quick. One thing that I've realized here with the, so I pulled the information from our catalog, and this is just a PDF of the Associate of Arts degrees from our catalog. And you can see here the way that they're listed is that, for example, this is still the, yeah, this is the anthropology course. We have 3 credits needed for history on one GT pathway course. And you can see here we have 6 credit hours for the GT pathway courses. So the bot already has the GT pathway courses for the Associates of Arts degree. It's already gone through and figured out all that information. There's still some checking that I need to do. Things are not 100% like I have to manually go through and check. For example, it'll tell me that a humanities text is not OER when I know very well that it is. But that's just because it wasn't flagged in some of the other areas. And that again comes from everybody still getting used to providing the information. So there is still manual checking that needs to go and happen here. But once that occurs, it'll run pretty seamlessly. So what I did initially was I said, hey, we'll go ahead and have it create. There's however many I named out the um, number of degrees. There's 25 degrees in this document. Go ahead and give me a spreadsheet that lists all of the information for potential 0 degree pathways. And it came back to me and it said, no, I can't do that. I'm missing information. So I realized if I did one at a time, which again is time consuming, there is probably going to be a better way to do this. It told me you need to provide to me the pathways and whatnot. Um, I said no, but I said, let's go ahead and check one of them and see. So this is the live bot. It asks how it can assist you, and I have a prompt that I'm going to put in here. This is for I'm going to do this anthropology degree. I can spell. Okay. Oh, and I copied this from another one. No. Okay, so it did a sociology one earlier. Um, I want it to look similar to the sociology handout. I'm not 100% sold on what the sociology handout looks like, but it's fairly decent and I wanted to provide an example. So I'm just going to go ahead and take a look at this. It'll run through the information. It's going to analyze, and then hopefully it'll come back with something. Previously, I was doing the two prompts together. One of them was asking for it to provide the pathway, and then the second was asking for it to provide the handout. For this example, we're taking a risk here. I've combined them, and I'm asking it to do more. I'm thinking that I don't remember the name of the program yesterday, but the one that Robbie talked about, uh, I'm going to try. The other thing that I really like about Boodlebox, and it'll still continue to execute when I go back here, is this will give you recommendations about how to improve your prompts and what it will need in order to create the output that you're looking for. So that's been helpful. I also like to ask it when I'm providing instructions. I like to ask it if it to repeat the instructions back to me prior to executing the objective that I gave it, just because I want to make sure that I've been clear. A lot of the time I'm working on this, I'm somewhat multitasking because it takes a moment, you can see, from it to come through. So I just type something in and I want to make sure that it's clear. Um, so I don't have to go round and round with the bot, but we'll see. It's still trying. There's a lot of information that's uploaded into the knowledge base that it has to run through. Eventually, what I'll do is I'll take some of that extraneous information out once I've zeroed in on all of the gen ed and other the gen ed requirements, and then the base of the associates of arts and associates of science degrees. And so the process for it will be faster. While we're waiting for this, does anybody have any questions?
There is currently nothing in the chat, but if anybody would like to unmute, that would be great, or put it in the chat and we will let Christine know.
Okay, we'll come back to this. Like I said, it usually takes a few minutes, taking a little bit longer than I thought, but okay. So initially what I did is I asked it to create spreadsheets because that's what I was working with. And so it came out with this. It's OER yes, OER no, were the outputs for this. And again, there were some issues with it not catching quite everything, but that's because the source material that I was using or that I am using again isn't dialed in 100%. So the output won't entirely look like this. Eventually, I would like to get back to where it tells where it indicates whether or not it's an in-person or an online class, because I think as students are looking at that information, it's important for them to see. I can tell you that there are very few degrees that offer, for example, just completely inline zero textbook cost options. That's why you need to rely on a variety of pathways for students to obtain OER. But if they are very concerned or their goal is to get through college without any additional textbook costs, I think that this is going to be beneficial for them, especially the GT pathway courses. So for students that are going to be transferring and potentially have textbooks at other colleges, this is going to help them some. Okay, so this is what it says. Here's our download. It's told me what it's done. Let's download it. And it is not pulling it there. It came up on another screen. Let me see if I can move this over here. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing the screen for a minute.
Yeah, we're not seeing it quite yet.
Yeah, it didn't. I have
Sometimes
three
you have to
different.
jump out and jump back in. So you're doing it just greatly.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, is that here? Yeah, I have like three different screens that I'm working, so it doesn't always cooperate with me. Okay. Okay,
There we go.
let's
Pikes
try
Peak State
this.
College.
Awesome. Okay. So
OER.
the first thing I could tell you is I do not like the look of this. But there's definitely things that need to be changed to it. But it is telling you here that there are options. And look, it did put it into it labeled it A, B, or C, but it's indicating that it recognizes that it put it into um in-person a home section that's pulled online, or an online home section, or a other type of section of a Colorado pulled. So this also is telling me just more information here. Could give some, because this is supposed to be for advising. I don't know if advising would necessarily work with this particular form. It definitely will need to be changed, but it gives you an idea of what options are available. We can put it into different formats. And I'm hoping that it can be something that could be used as a marketing tool for departments. So we have go back here. This should be
I'm
our
seeing
bot. You can see that.
your
Okay, beautiful.
checklist. Uh-huh.
Okay.
You might want to
Um,
make it full screen
yeah,
though. Perfect.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, so yeah, it's not perfect. It's certainly not perfect, but I think we're on the right path to getting it to be beneficial for us to identify which courses offer pathways. Um, then once I have that all set and I can identify which one, my goal is to um, focus on approaching the divisions about OER development and those that have degrees with high transfer rates. So again, GT pathway courses are something that I want to focus on. Programs that already have a strong potential for OER. For example, our communication department does have an OER pathway now. They just created the last of their textbooks that are OER. So they contacted me and they said, "Hey, are there other departments that use OER? What are you doing with that? How are you indicating?" And I said, "Well, actually, I'm working on this bot that can help that." And they said, "Oh, that will be really beneficial." So I think that if we could get something that's in an acceptable format that would be approved by advising and our marketing department to ensure that we're abiding by all of our PPSC guidelines, that they could use that as marketing for their department for incoming students and students that are interested in transferring and things like that. So, another thing that I'd like to do is we have a workforce development department now on campus. They're fairly new, and I would like to work with them to determine which professions in our geographic area are in high demand and see if we can get OER for some of those. So again, we can move that way. And then um, eventually I'm hitting everybody, but the individuals that have low adoption rates, those are the individuals that I have to do a lot of building rapport with, and it takes some time, but I think that eventually potentially we could get some of those departments that have lower adoption rates. For example, computer science right now. Um, Computer science does not use any OER, and they are the one course that is preventing some of our CTE programs from having an OER pathway to completion. So I would really like to work on developing rapport and having them be able to eventually, it's all about baby steps when you're working with change, but eventually have an option for students who can do that. Uh, and that's where I'm headed with any of that. I think I've already had. There's my next steps. And that is it for my presentation. I'm a little bit early, um, but I did want to leave some time for questions. Does anybody have any questions for me?
There is nothing in the chat.
Okay. Any
Great
comments?
information. Great
Oh,
information.
thank you. I would like to be able to make this available. The one downfall for building something that's so specific to our institution and our programs are that it is right now, it's not something that's readily available to be shared. But what I would like to do eventually is as I develop this and get it dialed in to where it can be more beneficial, I can share the process of building the bot. Um, and then that way it could be a little more open for individuals who would want to use bots through, another, whether it be at Chat GTP bot or you're using Boodlebox, whichever way there, but at least we can get that information and share that, because ultimately that's what open source and is about.
Well, if there's no more questions, we'll give everybody maybe another minute if they want to unmute or put it in the chat. Otherwise, this is another great presentation today, and we'll call it the end. Okay, everybody's saying thanks and thank you in the comments. So, Christine, thank you for your time and all your information today.
Yeah, thank you very much for attending. I hope you gained something. Have a good day.